I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.
Happy Valentine's Day. We have embraced this myth. We have gone above and beyond. Black women are going to save the world. Trust Black women. Believe Black women. Some of those are true. Yes, you should trust us, and yes, you should believe us. But we shouldn't be the only ones who are holding up the world and are the only ones that should be charged with saving it, because we can't do it all, nor should we. So, we want to talk about the fact as we get ready to celebrate uh, Valentine's Day. We need love too. We need to be nurtured rather than being the nurturers. We need to be cared for instead of just solely being the caregivers. We need partnerships instead of always having to shoulder the load on our own. So, we want to talk about some of those strong Black women tropes that some of us have embraced and all of us have heard, and talk about what we can do for our own self care. Because, sisters, as we know, Black women, we need love and care too. So let's talk about it. What are some of the things we should be doing to embrace the softer sides? Because we all have them.
Well, I think that first of all, we have to not feel like if we feel lonely or sad that we're being weak.
Right.
And it's just like, when they tell men, men don't cry, boys don't cry, like you're not supposed to have human feelings. And we are all human, and human beings need love. That is a need. And when you don't get it, there are things that sometimes get misshapen, even in your personality. I mean, even health wise, they know that children who are orphaned, if they don't get held and cuddled, they can become sickly, they can die. And in the wild, of course, if a baby born in the wild doesn't get its mother's warmth and cuddling, it dies. So, I mean, this is a real thing. You need the energy of love to live. And we shouldn't be made to feel like we're supposed to be this stoic, strong, needing nothing type of woman. Oh, we're superwoman. We can hold down 2 jobs and raise 5 children and no husband, no help. And we're supposed to be able to do it all. And there's so many women that are in states of depression because they don't have that nurture in their life. They don't have that comforter. They don't have that person that they can just share things with and trust. And they're supposed to just, suck it up and not need anybody. And so sometimes, we overcompensate by trying to overdo and be superwoman. But you find a whole lot of depression underneath all of that. And that's why, because we've been made to feel like if you show any need, you're weak. And that's really imbalanced.
There is an article called The Labor of Love from Mahogany Magazine that I just read actually about a week ago. It's an online magazine written and produced by African American authors. And it actually touched on this subject where the author talked about how Black women need that care, need that love, need that support, but need to be willing to accept it. There are so many movies that will hail the strong Black woman who has persevered through all kinds of problems and financial hardships and the horrible things that have happened at the expense of unkind friends or lovers. And those kind of things continue to be a little bit of a fantasy fairy tale where we have embraced that false belief that we are strong and nothing can kill us or hurt us or harm us or make us feel like other women in other groups. And so this article actually, and I suggest that you check it out, it's just called Mahogany. I would suggest that you would read this article, read the things that she talks about. Now, I have a story myself. I'm going to tell on my husband. When I was a young mother in the hospital, I had some difficulties. I'd actually gotten an infection from the hospital. They didn't realize this until after when they were trying to examine what was wrong with me. But there was this intern who was very rude and very mean to me and brought me to tears. My husband was there, and my husband actually rebuked this young intern and told him, you need to leave. And the intern was shamed and left. I'm making this story short because I've shared this before, but I just felt so loved, so cared for, so defended by my husband, who I had not seen him really come roaring mad at this person who was rude to me in the hospital. Now, I want to talk to you. We can't really talk about love without talking about the lover of life, the lover of our souls, Jesus Christ. Now, there are three kinds of love, and our poor vocabulary does not really describe it. We'll say, like, I love ice cream, I love books, I love staying out, I love men with good looks. But the three kinds of love, we have
Did you mean
eros.
to rhyme that?
Yeah, I actually just happened to do that. But eros is a sexual love. These are all like Greek words. We
Mhm.
have phileo, which is the brotherly friendship love. We have storg, which is the kinship family love. And then we have agape, the love that God has for us, the love where God gave his life for us. And, scripture also says that greater love has no one than someone who lays down his life for a friend. And just to show what that kind of love looks like, that kind of love puts up with a lot of stuff. Love bears all things, forgives all things, goes beyond all things. And I am reminded of this story in the Old Testament of Hosea, who married a defiled woman who she repeatedly cheated on him over and over and over, and he just kept taking her back. And in the end, he had to pay for her because she had gotten sold into slavery during her runnings around with wild men. And he paid an exorbitant price for her and took her back and even raised her kids. It isn't even known if all the kids that she had were by him. I think that we could learn a lot from the kind of love that was given and displayed in this story, this historical story of Hosea, who kept taking her back. Do you know someone who will take you back if you've done them wrong? And Black women have been done wrong a lot. And I feel that to be able to accept the kindness. And I'm thinking of that crazy movie a long time ago. I think it was Streetcar Named Desire, where the woman said, I've always depended on the kindness of strangers. That's kind of weird. But I think that in order to embrace your whole self and really care about your whole self, you need to be willing to be honest about the vulnerabilities that we really have. Yes, we're strong, and yes, we'll persevere, and yes, women will go to bat for their kids to the last drop of blood. But I'm telling you, we need to be able to be seen as women that want to be loved and need to be cared for.
Well, let me throw
Well,
this out there. Since you mentioned a few Bible verses, I'm looking at a trend that I've seen among a lot of women, and I understand dedication to spirituality. But given the way religion has distorted sexuality and shamed women out of their sexuality and shamed women who are sexual, sometimes women are confused in believing they cannot be spiritual and sexual, and also making them feel that if they are in fact desiring the love of a man, that makes them somehow dirty and wrong. And I
Mhm.
think that kind of
Taint.
distorted religious teaching has really crippled us in many ways of being able to form healthy relationships. Now,
Yeah.
I've seen women, go all overboard with the church activities and everything, to the point where they will neglect a husband. And if he says, well, look, I need some attention, oh, that's the devil talking. And they're not realizing, to build a relationship, you need to spend time together. But
Hmm.
their thought is, well, I'm doing this service. And I've seen women take that to the extreme. I've also seen
Me too.
women sometimes taken advantage of by preachers, because preachers see the need, they see the absence, and next thing you know, they got a secret intimate relationship with a preacher who was often married, but he also sees the absence of men in these women's lives, and then they are able to step in and fulfill her loneliness, which is unethical, but we see it all the time. And I've got so many uh, instances of church pastors in scandals. So, when you have churches where you have maybe 90% of the congregation is female, that's very imbalanced.
Yeah.
You wonder
And
what.
I'm glad you said that word, because I wanted to touch on that too. That's a great segue, because between what Barbara was saying and then what you, Naima, was saying, I was thinking, what is missing in our lives is that balance. One, yes, it's great to have a partner, and I say partner because it can be either a male or a female or someone non-binary, but you can have a partner, and you need to have that vulnerability to be able to embrace that partner and have that partner embrace you. But you also need to be aware of the word no when you don't have what you need, and to also embrace your own self-care. And that's what a lot of the thing is that love isn't supposed to hurt. And that's what we always forget, is that either, if in Barbara's story, I hear, okay, this was someone who just kept going back to someone who was not available to him, and kept trying to uh change that person, instead of maybe that person did not want to change. And that is an emotionally, if not physically, abusive relationship. It's an emotional abuse. And at some point, we can love someone as hard as we want, and if that person isn't good, uh you need to be able to love yourself enough to say, you know what,
Right. I
I
deserve
need to
better.
go. And it was so funny that, and I'm going to quote one of those great black women, Medea.
Yes.
all props, all props to Tyler Perry, but
All right, y'all don't say nothing about it. You say ain't not a real woman. Hey, you know.
but playing a real black woman would say, if somebody doesn't want to be with you, let them go.
Absolutely.
Do not. Why am I trying to convince you
That
that
I'm
I'm
worthy
good
of
enough
love.
for
Yeah,
you when
yeah.
you're probably not good enough for me? So, I'm going to give you my love, and you can receive it or reject it. But if you reject it, don't come back and say, okay, I'm ready for it now, after you've been catting around and then found out that nobody wants you. And that's the thing, is that we need to love the first person that we need to love is
It's
us,
ourselves. And
because
back to you, a reflection of how you feel about yourself, because you're
exactly.
only going to end up with someone who mistreats you if you don't feel worthy of good treatment. And it's
Yes,
not blaming the victim, It's realizing that you've chosen to be a victim.
And you
Why
don't have
are
to
you
be.
doing that? And
You are always going to be enough. And that is the thing. I remember there was one time that somebody said there was a survey and they were in a group and someone was and the question was, how many of you all could see fighting for your life? And a few hands went up. And then the question was, how many of you would be willing to fight for your child's life? And every hand went up.
Oh, yeah.
We have to love ourselves as much as we love our children, because everybody, mothers know you'll throw yourself in front of a train for your child. You will. And it doesn't even have to be yours. A lot of times it's
somebody
else's.
Because that is
your
visceral reaction. Not everybody feels that, but some of us do.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you need to love yourself that much. You need to love yourself enough, if you're in an abusive situation, to take yourself out of it the way you would take your child out of it. And
I want to speak to the fact of how sisters need to be supportive of each other.
Yes.
I'm going to touch on a subject that has been painful to me because I have observed it. But many times in the workplace, Black women are not kind to each other. They almost act like there's this competition to be the only one there. And we need to be able to develop our friendships with our sisters that are kind of like the friendships we had when we were kids in school. You know, you had a best friend, you went through everything together, you stood up for each other, you had each other's back. And then you grow up in this environment where Black women are mean to each other. Where is that at?
I know where that's coming from. That is coming from racism, anti-Black racism, and white male superiority. So with the white supremacy tells us, okay, if we give you one, that's all there's room enough.
But let's take responsibility for our response. Because you allow people to pit you against each other, you're allowing that. And
that's exactly right.
Take responsibility for choosing to mistreat someone because someone else said we can only take one. Okay, well, if you have that attitude, do I really want to work there? I'm not going to allow you to pit me against another woman. It's the same thing if a man pits two women against each other. Well, I'm with my wife, but I'm cheating on her. So now I got the wife and the girlfriend fighting against each other. Would you allow someone to pit you against someone else? Well, I want this man. I'm taking him for her. I'm going to put her down. Why are you allowing someone to make you lesser than your best self?
Exactly.
There's no need. And we as women have been taught that we have to compete for love. So that's where that jealousy comes in. You don't have to compete for love. Love comes to you when it's yours, when it's meant for you. And if somebody's trying to make you compete, then it's not love. It's their ego trying to make you feel like you got to work to be good enough. So all of those mind games, women have to take responsibility for allowing themselves to be played like that. We have to develop sisterhood because we love ourselves enough
That's exactly right.
Want to be our best self and to know that we will attract to us someone who appreciates who we are. You don't have to fight some other woman for a man. You don't have to fight some other woman for a job. You don't have to fight some other woman for anything. Just be your best self and appreciate yourself. Like you said, love yourself. No one is your rival. No one is your enemy. Love yourself. And that's what we gotta love. That's what we gotta learn.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. It's so funny when you say that, Barbara, about Black women being mean to each other, because when I recently, and I'm talking about a few months ago in the summer, I went to it was kind of a memorial for one of our Black women who had died, and she had from the globe. And there were so many when we had started, and this particular woman, her name was Glenda, used to get together all the Black women in the newsroom, and we used to go out to lunch. And she would organize this stuff, and Glenda was a Chicago girl. I love her forever. Her name was Glenda Buell, and she worked in the editorial. And we had gone to a memorial for her, and we looked around at all of these women, And not all of them had even shown up. And we started counting out all of these Black women who had worked at the Boston Globe at the same time. And the sisterhood that kind of came out of that, we just said, we didn't even realize, because there was, as big as the Globe were, there was like maybe 19, 18, 19 of us. So it didn't seem like it was that much or that many. But I remember thinking, you know what? We really had something going there. There were so many of us, and Glenda had taken it on herself to invite, people, the ones who could come to like go to lunch and kind of get to know each other. And it was really nice. And it's funny because one of those women, and I wasn't that close to her, but we knew each other, and she invited me to her wedding. At her wedding, this man that I had had a crush on for 7 years showed up. And that man has now been my husband for going on 26 years. So, you never know where that sisterhood is going to lead you. And he had come to the wedding because he had been a friend of hers. And when he showed up by himself, I thought, oh, good. So, but the thing is that we need to embrace our sisterhood. I always said, I used to joke, I used to say, you get any 2 or 3 Black women in a room, and we can always bond just over our hair tails, because we all got them.
Oh,
We
yeah.
all got the hair stories. And the thing is that, but we're more than that. We have such a kinship that we need to take the time when we are together, if it's 2 or more of us, just like they say, there is love from the wedding song. When there's 2 or more of us in the Black women in the room, we need to find that sisterhood. So you can say, yeah, I'm having troubles, or this is going on, and you have someone you can bond with. And maybe you all won't be close friends. Maybe you all just don't mesh. Maybe, and that may I met plenty of women who was like, okay, they're not necessarily my cup of tea, but we can still be cordial and we can still be sisters, because we need each other, and we need to hold each other up and lift each other up and embrace each other and be there for each other. And then when we learn to love ourselves and to love each other as Black women, we can exhale. We have stopped waiting to exhale. We can finally exhale, because
Yeah.
we are no longer holding our breath, holding our tension, holding our worries, holding our anxieties, holding in our depression, waiting for someone to say something, waiting for that first flinch, because when you're with other people, there are other people who are not people of color, and you're always waiting for that first Black comment so you can get it over with, because it's coming.
Well, I think what we have to develop the peace of mind where nothing anyone says can make us flinch, because there's nothing you can say or do to me that will change the reality of who I am. So I need to not.
But they always have to acknowledge. That's the thing. They always have to acknowledge that you're Black. Like, you don't know it.
That's on them.
That's on them. And
That's
exactly, that's on them.
And
so that you get to the point where you can say, okay, this is coming, and then you can call them out on it.
I think, and I don't know, maybe, I don't know if, well, I guess I depend on what circles, because there's some circles I'm around where I might be the only Black person in, but it
happens to me all the time.
I think, I think as we get comfortable with who we are, and it no longer matters whether other people are comfortable, it no longer matters if other people are racist, or if other people profile us. I mean, we can learn to be at peace, like you say, love yourself, and nobody else's opinion matters.
And
about myself, no matter what you say, if I love myself, I don't care who you are, I don't care what kind of position you have, I don't care how important you are, how much money, position, power, nothing. You can't change the reality of who I am, no matter what you say or do.
And it's that kind
of security comes with maturity. That kind of security and self-preservation of yourself, that self-care of yourself. And I would like to reach out and speak to women maybe who have been single or widowed, or divorced. We don't want to forget those sisters either. For some
Right.
people, Valentine's Day is not a wonderful day. And I would like to
Make
also
them
bring up
remember
the
that they're
fact
alone. Yeah.
that February 15th, the day after Valentine's Day, is a Singles Appreciation Day,
Really?
where people
Okay.
who are
Okay.
single can be
Okay.
celebrated.
Okay, I got to jump in here because I got to say this because my therapist this week she even mentioned this, and so she said also candy at CVS is half off.
You know?
Very important. So yeah, that's
What?
true.
Buy yourself some candy and
Buy
Yeah.
yourself some candy.
flowers. You
Buy
know,
yourself some
about that.
flowers. You know, buy yourself a facial or a massage or
Yeah.
a bubble bath.
Yeah.
Definitely
You know
massage.
what?
Yeah.
That is the
Pedicure,
thing is.
manicure, all that stuff.
Yes.
Treat yourself.
Oh yeah.
Pamper yourself.
That's
And
part of
don't
self-care.
take
The
yourself out.
pedicure.
Take yourself out to a nice dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spend some
You
money
know,
on yourself. You don't feel
yeah,
like,
spend
well,
some
I want
money
to
on
resist me.
yourself.
No, you're
You
special.
know, you've
Dress
earned
up.
it. You've earned it. You
Yes.
know, and like I was going to say, when we talk about people, saying stuff to us, it is no longer your job to make other people comfortable with your blackness.
Absolutely.
That is on them. So we are proud, beautiful Black women, you know, and we need love too. But the first love we're going to get is love of ourselves.
Yes.
And then the more you give to yourself, the more you have to give out to other people.
Right.
You
I was
know.
in a seminar today. It was one of those self-empowerment seminars. And the guy who was giving it, he was really making some good points about how we have all this negative self-talk and we keep repeating it. And if you've grown up in an environment where maybe your parents or siblings or even classmates called you ugly or any other kind of thing or stupid or anything, or if you were large, they talked about your weight, whatever it is, that if it happened in your life and it made you feel bad about yourself, you have to make a conscious effort to undo that programming, because you subconsciously say things to yourself. Oh, I look terrible. Oh, my behind's so big. Oh, you can say those things and you don't realize that you're cutting yourself down internally. And the vibration that creates, because thoughts are vibrations, words are vibrations. When you think low about yourself, the vibration you put out attracts to you someone who will think low of you as well and will treat you as if you are not worthy. So we have to really consciously do positive self-talk. Look in the mirror. I think they said Mary McLeod Bethune would look in the mirror every day and say, "Black is beautiful." Because you got to reprogram yourself. If you've heard all those negative things growing up, it's still in you and you're still saying it even though you don't realize it. So you got to unsay it. You got to say those positive things. I'm beautiful. I'm beautiful. Oh, my hair is wonderful. Oh, I'm fine. Oh, I'm just so fine. Oh, I love me. You have to do that because
we can't
Here
say
I am,
undo.
the great book that tells you to how to even speak to yourself positively. You are worth the work by Junie Felix. And whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good report, think on these things. I saw this movie that was based on a true story of one of the first African American pilots. And there's this scene in the beginning. You hear this man saying all this horrible, bad stuff about Black people. And then you move back from the camera, and it's the man talking to himself, saying all this negative stuff. And he said, I have to do this because these are the things that have been said to me. And if I say them first, I can dispense the power that it has over me. I don't know if that was really true. I found his negative self-talk to be painfully destructive. And so we need to get out of that mode of saying bad things about ourselves, repeating bad things. You are a creation of God who made you in his image. Yes, you are worth the work to go through the things that cause trauma in your life, to get away from those negative things that impacted you, the things that were bad that happened to you. That's not your fault, and you can rise above that. I think that having a good grasp of knowing who you are, who you were created to be, Who loves you? God loves you and gave himself for you so that you could have that abundant life now, not later on, in heaven or whatever, but right now you can live that kind of life that is worthy of you to have, whatever your circumstances are.
Well,
Well,
let's
it's
remember
time for us
that
to go.
always,
Yep, time for us to go.
so that we may live that abundant life of love. We thank you all for watching. I believe we had a comment, someone who has some issues with what is happening in Nigeria with women.
Yeah.
And we understand that all over the world, women need to learn to love themselves. And that's when we know that we are expressing what we deserve. Thank you so much. Join us again tomorrow. Well, no, not tomorrow. Next week.
You're already
gonna be here though.
Tomorrow, if you're coming to the house.
So Negus Afra,
We've got to go.
well, we thank you. We thank you.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. And remember, no one can take advantage of you without your consent. Love yourself above all. We will see you next time. Until then, I'm Naima.
I'm Cheryl.
I'm Barbara. Have a happy Valentine's Day. Love others. Love yourself. Love God. Bye. Hi, I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.